Hello, hello. Welcome to today. We are going to be uh, adding physics to the sunflower fox girl that we've made. And after that, we're also going to probably show a little bit of like how you export and get ready and put it all together to VTube. So that's really all we're doing today. Not really too much to actually talk about or go over before we kind of go into it. So let's just move on to this screen. So remember last stream we did all of this. All of this is done now. We technically don't need to modify it at all. It is completely good to go. Now, we also did the breathing last time. So that's good. And then now we're going to do all of these physics. And remember, we individually labeled our little sunflower petals on her neck. So we got plenty to do today, but it shouldn't be too bad. Most physics can be done super like quick, easy, and somewhat shortcutty. As long as you're okay with like a bit of a quick and dirty, get the deed done. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what we're going to work on. Let's just jump right in. So first things first, the ear floof. All right. Jumping into the ear floof. Let me put on a little bit of that background jam. So it's not just me silently talking to everyone. All right, so we have the ear fluff, which we have made. Again, most physics, I would highly recommend making this, what's it called? The deformer. Making this warp deformer for everything that you're going to physics. It just makes it so much easier to like adjust them. So we're going to take this, so this is right ear fluff, so we'll select the right ear fluff parameter. It has neutral, it has left, and it has right. All your physics settings will need to look like this. Well, they don't need to, but it's better if they do. Okay. So now we're going to put the keyframes on it, and we're going to start moving and grooving. So now we're going to gradient select. Sort of the edges or tips of it. And we're going to move it to the left. And you know what we're going to do when we move it to the left? We're going to move the actual object, to the left as well. So then it moves like this, you see? So it just wiggles a little bit to the left. Well, then what do you do if you go to the right? Well, we're just going to wiggle it a little bit to the right. So this is what it looks like. It just wiggles. Perfectly normal. It wiggles. It do be wiggling. It's a little floofy. And that is basically the entire gist of what you're going to do for physics. You're just going to like gradient select stuff and then move them in one direction and then in the other direction. And then we're just going to tell Live 2D what to do, or like when to do that, which is just when you're moving, they'll just start swaying left and right. And it's really that simple. So now we go to the left ear floof, go to the left ear, add keyframes to that one as well. Gradient select, we're going to move to the right, also to the right. I'm going to move to the left, also to the left. Just a little bit of bounciness. When you go back and forth like this, it should just look kind of bouncy. All right, bangs. Now, bangs is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be one of the first ones that we're actually going to have something happen, because it's not going to necessarily be left to right, but it's also kind of going to be a little bit of that up and down. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just going to be move it to the left, move it to the left. It's going to be move it to the left, move it to the left and up and down. So let us go ahead and grab. Where did we put the bangs? Head, face. Hair dangling. Bangs. There's the bangs. The bangs deformer. Well, wouldn't you know it? We're adding our 3 keyframes. Now move it to the left. And as such, we're going to gradiently move it to the left. Now something I would note, your hair doesn't, again, your hair is parted a certain way, so it's going to look a bit different. We're going to add a little bit extra. So we're going to select just the left side because we're going left. Well, and again, not character left side, but the side that we are going, we're going to move it a little bit more and a little bit up. See, that's a little bit too much. You don't want it to be too crazy. All right. Then we're going to do pretty much the same thing for the other side. We're going to, not you. Where's the center of this red box? I literally can't see where the center of what I've selected is. So I'm going to just simply reselect. There it is. Okay. And again, adding a little bit of rotation makes it nicer. Because obviously, as things move from left and right, unless there's something that like dangles like the bells I have, they're not going to actually move directly left and right because they're, well, all the hairs on your head are on a sphere, right? Your skull is rounded. So they're going to need to move, you know, left and right, but their base is going to stay the same, so they're going to also move up and down a little bit. Just because they're attached to a sphere. So it's just kind of swishing back and forth a little bit. Let's take a look. So it looks actually kind of weird. Not sure if I'm entirely sold, but we'll come back and we'll change it if we don't like the way it looks later. A lot of this is just kind of going to be, well, you just got to trust yourself, right? You're just going to have to trust the process and trust what you're doing. Because a lot of it's, one of the things about animation, people love to do this where they'll like, oh, they'll just pause in the middle of a big animation and be like, haha, look stupid. But that's exactly how animation is. You can have completely stupid that don't look like anything frames, but they have a purpose. They look good in motion, but you're not, because it's meant to be seen in motion. So a lot of this is going to be trusting that you're doing the right thing and then just rolling with it. So we want the bun to bounce. We gotta select this and do this. So how would a bun bounce? Well, it would probably drop a little bit and then squish. All right, that's usually what buns would do. And again, rotating because it's all attached to a sphere. Okay, and then, well, it'll bounce back up. Like that one. Oh, I lost my selection. That's what it was. There we go. Bounce back up. Oh, I did the thing. The thing I keep on doing. Okay, hopefully it doesn't mess up anything. So it's just kind of bouncing. Now I'm going to fix individual parts of this, just because I think that some of it is starting to look a little bit wonky. Like this here. Definitely looks wonky. Okay. And I'm actually going to do a little bit of this, because these guys, when they go down, should theoretically point a little bit down and do a little bit of bouncing themselves. Because that's just how physics works. So it's pretty bouncy, but it should be fairly okay. Yeah, that should look alright. Could look better. Obviously, you can also do a lot more in-depth animations, but I mean, when you have enough physics objects, I think that probably just drag down your computer a bit, but I think visually it looks nicer to have more things moving than like 2 really detailed things, just personally. All right. Move down and then squish a bit. And obviously, move that over to the correct area, because you once again did the thing. All right, there we go. Now it's actually working. Okay, I keep on, what I'm doing, by the way, if this is your first time tuning in, is I keep accidentally putting it on the middle keyframe. So I'm like supposed to go to the right, which I'm going to mean is down. And I'm just not I'm just not doing that. So I'm just putting it on the middle keyframe. All I'm doing is I'm hitting adjust to move the middle keyframe to the right keyframe and switching their places. So that's all I'm doing on that, by the way. Okay, now let's get a little bit of this guy moving down to a little bit of this one. Yeah, so it looks a lot more squishy. Right, and then as it flicks up, looks a bit like that. So it's a bit bouncy. All right. Again, what you're looking for is bounciness. I'm actually going to combine these just so I can see them in motion together. They look to be relatively similar in how much and how down I go, which is good. That's what we're looking for. So now, where are the hair danglies? Okay, because I got to turn those also back on now that we're done working on stuff underneath them. And now the hair danglies are going to be a little bit interesting. So you could do this in a couple of separate ways. The way I think is probably just, again, the easiest and best is to do what we've been doing. It should look absolutely reasonable. So on the left hair dangle, that's the left hair dangle. To the right, we're going to move it, shock and awe. To the right. So it is going to move to the right. Oh, I didn't do my gradient select correct. So you're going to want to make sure you have all of the bottom. And then slowly work your way up. So then you'll move. You'll do your rotations. So that it looks like it's doing that. So then, oh, looks like it's going to the right. And something a little extra just adds a really nice look is to basically flare up the end as if it's like kind of whipping around. Whoop. Actually, make sure you're doing a gradient pickup on most all of it. All right. So that way it's flaring a bit. And then we'll do the same thing for the other side. Although, to be honest, we can absolutely probably reflect the motion across the horizontal axis, since these are straight up and down. Since the motion on these is pretty much straight up and down, we're actually going to attempt to simply reflect the motion and hope it looks good. I think that looks totally reasonable. All right. Right hair dangly. Make sure to fully select the bottom. Slowly gradient up. And then realize you have once again left it in the middle keyframe. I'm nothing if not inconsistently bad. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Well, it does look okay, although I think I want to take our little maneuver brush and move it a little bit like that, so it's not quite as square looking. Yeah, that should be fine, and then we will hit our adjust button because we, once again, put it on the middle keyframe, and that is no good. So this is going to become -30, and then this will become 0. And just like that, we've moved it over. And just like the other one, reflect motion horizontally. And see, this is one of the little quirks that can happen. So we'll just have to manually fix that. So we had a little bit of overlap that happened. Which again, unfortunate, but not, you know, altogether unseen. Okay, let's see them move together. A little bit wobbly. That should be okay. And it's fine to either over-exaggerate the motion or underdo the motion. Either one is fine as long as you're consistent across the model with what you want. Okay. So that's very quickly. These ones quickly just put in. And now we will move on to the neck pedals, which we also all want to move individually. Now these are also all going to be done the exact same way, where we're just going to select each individual one, give it its little bit of motion. All right, so T1 is going to be top front right. All right, top front right. Then it's going to need to do a little bit of its wiggling. I'm going to simply put it on the right damn one. One of these days, I won't need to do this on every single keyframe I make. Someday. Today's not that day, though. Today I'm just going to keep doing what I have to do. Okay, so it wiggles to the right. Or sorry, to the left. Now it's going to wiggle a little bit to the right. Just gradient select. Go to the right. To be fair, you technically don't have to gradient select. You can just use the markers on there. But I find the gradient select often gives me a better result. Alright, so there you go. It wiggles a bit, it wobbles. And that's all we're looking for, because again, there's a ton of these here that are all going to be moving at once. If you actually like over-exaggerate the movements on these neck pedals, for example, like a lot, you're going to start showing things that are underneath them that you haven't really paid much attention to. They're just going to look really weird and crazy busy. So you want to tone it down. You can obviously tone down how much once we get into the actual like numbers part of the physics settings. But for now, it's just super easy to just make it subtle while you're doing it. Because again, a lot of the physics just to make you feel alive, so there's real motion going on. Okay. Oh my god. I'm not sure it's actually possible for me to not, mess this up. Okay, there it goes. Okay, where is the... There it is. That one's actually a little bit too much. So we're going to dial it back a bit. I think what it needs is a bit of the tip moving a bit more. And look a bit more natural. Alright, T3, next top. So top mid left. I almost did it again. Haha, I caught myself this time. Moving it up and to the right. Again, the neck is a cylinder, so it's rounded. So things are not going to go perfectly left and right on it. Pretty simple, but just important to remember. Let it wiggle a little bit. Should be good to go. T4. That's this guy now. Son of a... Pay no attention to how much I'm doing this. If you're doing this, you should totally be better than this. To learn from my mistake. And always set which keyframe you're doing at the start of when you're about to move it. Feels like this is actually a bit of a receding. Oh no, they're both too far out. That's what it is. And I've moved the base a bit too much. Okay, that's not too bad. T5, that's the back left. Now the ones in the back here, I think, are pretty much going to move straight up and down. Just a little bit of rotation added. We'll do it. This side is down. There you go. So that looks pretty all right. All right, next one. Top, back right. that will look just fine. Now we get the little bottom ones. And the bottom ones are pretty much, I think, just the same, the way we're going to want to do it. I mean, we can have them move in the opposite direction, though. But we can also just do that in the actual numbers. So let's start with bottom left. Make the keyframes. Gradient select. Pick a direction. Let's move to the right. And then let's move to the left. Now, if anything, something I could do, and I think I will do, is I'm actually going to make the movements of the ones underneath a lot more subtle than the ones on top. So it's just going to move a little bit and rotate a little bit. And then it's just going to move a little bit and rotate a little bit. So its wiggle range is a lot smaller than some of the top ones. I think we'll keep that trend going so the bottom ones don't move as much as the top ones. I think that'll create a nice little disconnect on the way they look. Yeah, so they just move a little bit and it'll create that little layered effect. Okay. Oh. This one, however, I think I will do a bit more exaggerated because it's also on top of one of the other bottom ones. So this one will go a little bit more, but otherwise the rest will still be a lot more subtle. And it's just a lot of doing this. A lot of the physics I find to be pretty relaxing. It's just chill stuff to do. Just calm, methodical. It's kind of like the way I view like the painting stuff in art. It's just kind of soothing. You're just sort of repeating the same motions repeatedly. It's just calming, like meditation almost. Okay. Next one. Oh, I put these ones on the same keyframe, silly Billy. And you'll see why we have them all on their own separate parameter later. Because technically you can put them all in the same one, but you'll want to keep them separated if you want them to move independently of each other. Okay, so we'll do this way and down this way. It's a bit too much. Going for subtle. Subtle, small movement. Okay. Then for this guy, where's the rotation control? There it is. Alright, that ought to be good. And then these guys in the back, we turn off some of the top pedals so I can see it. There we go. So now I can see these back ones. Okay. These ones are going to have a little bit different just because they're at a completely different angle. I'm going to see if it works. I can come back and fix it if it doesn't. A lot of this is going to be kind of trial and error, where you just kind of like do something that you think might look cool, and then you come back later to see if it actually does. Okay, so that's all of those. Now, all the neck pedals have their own little physicsy bit, so they can all wiggle. Next, we're going to see your leaf bra, it looks like. So for the leaf bra, technically the only thing I'm actually doing physics-wise on the leaf bra is the little dangly bit here. That's the only part that needs independent physics from the rest of the titty. All the rest of that is going to be by itself. I just want the little bit of the leaf to sway as everything moves. So let me select the leaf bra. So I'm going to put both of the leaf bra deformers into this. Just because the overall Booba deformer, we're going to work on that here in a bit. But I need independently the leaf bra. So left leaf bra. Okay, yep, those match. If it wiggles this way, what's it going to do? Well, it's gonna wiggle that way. If it wiggles the other way, what's it gonna do? Well, it's gonna wiggle the other way. And that's it. That's that simple for that. Just a little bit on that guy there. Moves to the right. Well, he wiggles a little to the right. If he moves to the left, well, he wiggles a little bit to the left. Super simple. And then before I actually move on to the Booba, let me just do this other quick one. So we've got all the quick guys and that are super easy out of the way. So we're going to do the little wrist pedals. So the right wrist pedal is this one. And we're just going to make them sway. They're not going to move individually, so they're just kind of going to sway. So they're going to sway this direction. Wouldn't you know it, they are going to, as soon as I can find that, there you go, sway that direction. If they sway the other direction, they are going to sway the other direction. Just going to wiggle a little bit. That's all we need from them. Technically, that might be actually a little bit too much, but we'll fine-tune that in the actual numbers bit. That is absolutely fine. Okay. So again, we're selecting just the tops. If we put it to the right, it's going to wiggle a bit to the right. If we put it to the left, it's going to wiggle a little bit to the left. And there you go. So now we can get into some of the real stuff. So what's left now is the boobas and the tail. Because remember, the tail was going to be its own thing that we were going to have to work on. And then the boobas are, well, I mean, they're the boobas. You want your boobas to move a lot. So for the boobas, we're going to grab our Booba deformer that we made. We're going to give it the normal physics trio of left, right, and neutral. So when your boobas are going to be swung to the right, what do you think is going to happen to them? Well, if you guessed that they're going to sway to the right, good job. Although, I do want them try to keep it gradient so that they don't move like crazy. Because one of the other things you want to do is try to keep actually the bottom bits intact, so that it still like connects to the same place, like on the dress, for example. So if you look like at this connecting joint actually doesn't move, but the rest of it above it does. So you just have to be mindful when you're gradient selecting that you try not to do too much of those edges. Okay, where'd you end up? No, not you. I can never find the center of these damn selectors. It's just a tiny red dot. There it is. And I'm a little bit colorblind, so the tiny red dot doesn't really work out too well for me. So you see, okay, well, it's going to the right. Well, that doesn't quite look perfect. But that's all right, because we have the power to just keep going at it. So this one's going to need to move a little bit more. And so they'll squish together. So you see, this is actually not what we want, because again, we're just trying to move the middle, because all the connecting points need to pretty much stay the same. Again, because where the boobie connects with the shoulder up here needs to remain the same. Where this little bit of clothing connects, that needs to stay the same. Everything else can kind of move and squish. So let's actually try it with the squishy move tool. Okay, there's that. Oh, and then the torso. Suppose we will also add a bit here in with the torso in order to keep some of that shape there. No, that's not how I want to do it. So we're going to put the torso in the Booba deformer just so that it moves with it. All right, everything is in the Booba deformer. Just so we don't lose all of the shadows, because I baked in some amount of shading. So you want to make sure it's all going to move at once. Oh, I don't know what I just did here. Okay. So they're kind of going to move to the right. You can see what they're doing. And sort of once we get it about right, we'll probably just reflect the motion onto the other. And this is just going to be a lot of fiddling. You're just going to keep going until it looks right. Alright, so now let's make an attempt to modeling parameter reflect horizontal. So it doesn't quite look right. What's happening is we're getting the leaf bra to not quite move right. So we're going to completely reset that. We're going to click model, edit form, revert to original. Oh, sorry, not the art mesh. I need to, where's the original? There, and then we're going to remove the keyframes and re-add the keyframes. That's just going to completely clear anything you had done. So what I think I want to do, let me try this. I just do a big, whoop, a big swipe of the gradient tool. Do a couple more holding shift to build it up. And then just slide over maybe. Now it's way too subtle. So what if instead I just try using the controls that they have? Because they've got some controls here I can probably use fairly well. I do all of these this direction. How does that look? Well, that doesn't look too bad, actually. All of that moves, so does that. I think with that, though, this part would need to come in a bit more. Then this part maybe go out a bit more. Bit even more than that. Okay. I think I need to keep this one a bit more in check. And I'm just looking at it in motion. Right? I'm not necessarily looking at the individual frames. That motion looks pretty good. I think I like that motion. Okay, so let's model reflect motion horizontally. So how does it look now? Well, it actually does kind of look like they're bouncing. All right, so now I'm going to do one last thing, which is going to add, again, these are attached to your torso, which is a cylinder. I'm going to add a little bit of rotation on the extremes. Basically of just where the booby is pulling back. All right. Okay. All right, so how does this look? So I messed it up with what I just did. I'm just gonna hit Control Z so it goes kind of back to how it was supposed to look. Now, one thing I notice, so it does look a bit like that bottom part is kind of moving a bit. So what we'll do is just go into the details. We will actually manually just select these 4 little vertices, which are basically, again, anything. So if we select 4 vertices, everything within those 4 will be exactly as it is. So if I select these 4, what's in these? Oh, well, it's where these 2 attach. So if I hit Control-Shift-C over to this side and Control-Shift-V, they now attach exactly to where they were. See that? So they don't move. If I do the same here, then they are once again exactly where they should be. So now it looks like her titties are kind of moving without moving the actual anchor point there. Now, the last thing to notice here, so the motion actually looks pretty okay. The motion looks fine. And then, you know, with a little bit of physics on the little leaf dangly, it'll probably be okay. But the cleavage, because remember, the cleavage is a part of the chest, right? The cleavage is when there's a part of the chest showing through where they collide. And so that is moving too much, basically. So like where they are is moving a lot, sure, but the top angle bit where it meets with the chest is moving too much. So we'll simply go in with our little brushy and do this. And then see how that looks. Looks pretty alright. Looks reasonable enough. Now you zoom out. And yeah, that gives them a good amount of wobble. Now, something you can also do is you can add an up and down as well. So this Booba Physics is, well, obviously it's just left and right. But you can 100% add up and down as well. Let's actually do that. So let's go with Booba Physics UD for up down. Booba Physics UD. All right, let me make sure that this one was... Yeah, okay, I was like, they were also 30-30. And so, well, if we're going down, then it is going to be pretty much the same deal. So, we're simply going to grab a whole bunch of it. Again, they're big sacks of meat. And we're just going to move it down. We're going to move that back up so that it fits back into place. We're going to quickly do that thing I always do. Every time. So that it does this. And then when it pops up, wouldn't you know it, it pretty much does the same thing. Obviously this is exaggerated, it would do a bit more than that. As an example, allow me to gradient select some of the top now. And move some of that up as well. So then there's that. And then, well, since these are going to interact with each other, probably a good idea for us to synthesize the corners. So we are synthesizing these two corners. So now if it's down and to the left and up and to the left, and down to the right and up and to the right. And so now they can bounce around in a lot more interesting of ways. They can go all the directions. Although actually... let me quickly... I'm going to adjust this because I did up and down in reverse of what it should look like when I actually put them together like that. So I'm just going to reverse those. There you go. So now it, you know, functions well on my brain in this little chart. So I can go up right, down left, up left. And they can bounce around all they want here. And ain't that just dandy and swell. So then that is the titolis. That's the tatas. All right. Now we're going to get to probably the hardest part of pretty much this model we decided to make is the tail, because we wanted to animate the tail in Live 2D as opposed to basically having it all move around anywhere else. Let me actually... move her over so that we have more room to move the tail around. Okay, so that should be good. Give the tail plenty of room, as we are now going to go into the tail. So we have the base. So we're probably going to actually make a lot more on this tail, just because we're going to treat it kind of like a pendulum. So, you know, see how my bell kind of waves? We're probably going to treat the tail a lot like this. All right, so we're going to be making pretty much entire bone circles. So we're actually going to make, like, tail tip 1, for example. Ram tail tip 1. -1, 1. We're going to make another one for tail tip 2. Tip 2. -1, 1. We're going to make finally a third, because everything always comes in threes. It's better that way. Tail tip 3. and tail tip 3, -1, 1. Now, the reason I'm doing 3 is because think of it, so it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. So we have, well, there's the beginning, we'll do the middle, and then we'll do the end. And then they should be able to all move somewhat independently. So that's the plan. First things first, we need to put the tail tip in the same one as the base. Or no, we have a little rotator for that. We don't need to do that. We already have one. Look at me planning ahead. So we're going to make the 3 keys. And we're going to say, okay, well, if it goes this way, what happens? Well, it's just a rotator, so it just rotates. Actually, undo the keys first. Let's make it a little bit higher so that it has more room to move. Then we'll set the keys. Move it down. Where do we want it to go? Down. Move it up. Where do we want it to go? Up. And that one is super simple. So you can just do a little bit of tail moving and tail wagging. Okay. Now if you wanted to smooth this out even more, you can add custom keyframes. You can do stuff like, just as an example, so this is -30, 30. Actually, yeah, we'll do that. So we'll add a keyframe at, say, -25 and 25. 25. Because say we don't like that it just comes to a stop. We want it to like gradient into a stop. So this last little bit here, we're actually going to move it up. Or sorry, other way around. So we're going to take this last tail bit, we're going to move over to our 25, and we're going to move it down. So that it doesn't come to like an instant stop like it does here. It kind of eases into a stop. And we're going to do the same thing on this one. Just move it a little bit more. And then it sort of eases back and forth instead of being like super direct, like instant stop. And that's just, you can do all kinds of cute things all over the place for that. I generally don't. I just like to let them rock, but you can absolutely do that. Alrighty, so now we have the tail tips. So we're going to do tail tip 1 is going to be the very, very tip. So it's going to go vertically. So tail tip 1 is going to be up here, then tail tip 2, then tail tip 3. So we're going to select the tail tip. And this is actually something that we can use for the first time. I don't normally use it, but there's actually something called glue. So you can select these 2 mesh and select the glue button. And you can, select the, select some vertices. And then you can glue them. Where's the glue button? Okay, there we go. I swear there was a clean way to do this. Glue. On, off. No. See, this is how often I use it. The fact that it is like this. Parameter guide. Where's my glue brush? Not you. No, whatever the hell I just clicked. Okay, glue. There we go. So now that we are in the mesh edit, we should be able to do it. So we're going to select these two vertices, and we're going to do glue bind. So now they've merged into one point. And if we move this one point, now that we're out, notice how it moves. Oh, it moves both of them. Oh, that's cool. Which is exactly what we want. That way, the meshes will never separate. Even if one of them theoretically would snap off of each other and like you'd have visual issues. Gluing them now will be very helpful in the long run. So let me get back into here and back into, oh, not auto, back into the mesh editor where we can select another pairing and glue those two. All right, good stuff. And we'll glue these. So now we've got this little vertices right there. Inside of that triangle is all glued. So anything inside this triangle is going to look like this regardless of which layer it's on. So if I move this, well, I'm moving all of it. And if I move this, well, I'm moving all of it. Now you see that helps because you notice, so this is where they overlap. But now any vertices that gets moved, it's not going to remove the overlap that's here. This is like basically the primary use of the glue tool is for things that overlap that you're going to need to move a lot. And so that is the current plan. Let's go ahead and glue some more vertices. Ain't this fun? So select those, bind them. Select these, bind them. Select these, bind them. And for kicks and giggles, we will also bind these two and these two. All right. Now, to be honest, we could do this pretty much the whole way if we wanted, but mostly we just need to make sure that the edges don't mess up too bad. So you see, okay, we're moving these all around however we want. This one actually doesn't need to be glued at all, but it is, so we have it there. And notice, oh, well, there's a little bit peeking out up there. Do we care about that? Well, let's see. Is there anything easy to just quickly glue here? Well, looks like there might be, so why don't we just give it a shot? Select these, bind it, and then now how does it function? Well, still a little bit, but definitely less noticeable. So that, again, that's the primary function of the glue tool, is just, well, glue things together. It does what it says on the tin. So now, even though we're going to be moving this like a lot and a lot of angles, this seam should be completely fine, regardless. So that is the use of the glue tool. I don't use it very often, but you absolutely can. Another use of the glue tool, for example, could have been here. Instead of manually just making it sure that this stay in the same place, I could have just glued it to the little yellow bit here. And that'd be absolutely fine. Only reason I didn't use glue up here is because the mouth needs to move independently and stay in the same place. And as such, I didn't really want it to move very much past here. So I decided to manually make that exactly where it is. Now let us select the tail tip 3 and our tail tip box. Create our keyframes. So we're going to wiggle to the right. So we're going to hard select everything up top and then gradient select the section we're working on. And then we are going to move it. Move it what feels reasonable. Right, so that feels like it's bending. All right, and then we're going to select the whole thing and move the whole thing a little bit. So that created a little bit of a weird bump. We're just going to move it back. We're just going to move it like that. Okay, that's it, and that's all we're doing for that little bit. Now we select the same stuff. Oh, sorry, well, I suppose we could also... let's see if reflecting the motion horizontally actually works here. So if it does, that'll save us a little bit of time. So it goes to the one side and then to the other. Doesn't look like it quite does, but it does work reasonably well enough that I'm going to keep it. So now we're getting into a little bit more of the hardcore movements, where it's going to, again, anything above the section, because again, that's tail tip 1 territory. We'll do that when it comes to tail tip 1. And then gradient select the section you're working on. Move it to the right. Well, that is just what we're doing. Okay, so now this moves to the right. Yeah, so we're going to need to do some corner bits on the... Oh, where'd it go? Ah. So we're going to need to move it here in a bit. Then we will reflecting the motion save us time? A little bit. Nothing crazy. All right, and then we're actually going to synthesize the corners here. So this one is that tail tip. Up and down is that one. Actually going to push in on that a little bit. All right, now we'll reset these, and then now we will do the very, very tip, which is going to be a lot of movement. This one's going to move a lot. So we're going to add. And now we're going to select the tip that we want. Move it to the right. Well, it's going to be a lot of rotation. A lot of rotation. Actually, I wonder if I might actually use the brush here for this one. No, I will not. I will continue my normal strategy. First, we move just the tip to full rotation. Then we move a lot of the action. Okay, so the very tip is a lot of motion. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Probably could have used even more joints on this, to be honest. But I think it could probably still do okay. Yeah, that one's just a little bit pointy. It's a little bit too pointy for what I like. So I'm gonna tone it down a bit. Just gonna tone it down a little bit. No, don't make a new one. Let's see if I can modify. Yeah, so let's use the temporary deform tool briefly for distortion. What we're gonna do Okay, yeah, so this is a temporary one. Can I add a new thing here? I'm trying to figure this out relatively on the fly, but let me just, maybe I can just modify here. So height, let's give it, say 10. 10 divisions, 13 divisions. Okay, back to 10. Wait, can I get away with 11? Yeah, I can do 11. Okay. Just, so now it's a good bit rounder there. Right, so now it's, so now it wiggles a lot more roundly. That's what we were looking to do. Okay. Okay, so now it can wiggle at the very end. It can wiggle in the middle. It can wiggle a lot more from the base. So now we're actually going to do a bunch of corner synths. So we're going to corner synth tip 1 with tip 2. And we're going to corner synth tip 1 with tip 3. So now, in theory, at any point on where I move this, so if I go, I want to go all the way to the right. Oh, that didn't quite work. So now I'm going to corner synth tip 1 and 2 at this point where tail tip is still there. So now we're going to take tip 1 and 2, synth that, and we're going to move it to -1, and we're going to corner synth that again. So now let's see if it works. So all the way to the right. So that works just fine. And then, well, let's move it all the way to the left. Oh, it gets a little bit stretchy, but it's still mostly fine. And all we got to do to tone down that a little bit of that stretchiness is just pull it back, just on that frame. All right. So then, okay, well, let's go this way, and then let's move the tail the other direction. Okay. Well, and there you go, and that looks like a relatively decent default shape. Because remember, this was the default shape we started with. And now that we've animated it, we can have it, the animation start like this. Right, so that's pretty good. And then how far is this ever going to go? So like this. So let's move everything back into place. A lot more centered. So this is the maximum it'll ever go to the right. Okay. So save. And now we have put all of our physics animations together. Now we just got to work on the physics. But before we can do that, before we can do that or export, there's one more thing that it wants us to do, which is the texture atlas. There we go. Oh. Not that. Okay, yeah, that's fine. We're good there. And then, where did the texture atlas go? So texture atlas. 75 objects not placed into the atlas yet. So you can press T to show the model image. Just so you're like out of that. And then you will go to, I believe it's this button here. Edit texture atlas. You can also hit Control T. And then these numbers are going to be similar to what your art document was, your Photoshop document. They're going to end up, you don't have to be exact, but they're going to end up roughly similar. I'm trying to remember. I think I did, what, 2048, 4069, something like that. Well, we'll see. If it's too small or too big, we can just shrink it down. But that actually looks, I mean, everything fits. There's plenty of space. I could probably even go smaller, to be honest. But it looks like everything's in there. We'll hit automatic layout just to make absolutely sure. Just in case there's something hidden underneath one of these, but it looks like it's good to go. So you just want to make sure that you get this done. It's in there. This is just all your meshes all in one that it can reference. And you just hit OK. And then bam. All right, it's all on there. And then now we can go ahead into the physics. Open physics/scene blending settings. All right, so there's presets and stuff, but I don't really do that. I just kind of add. So for this physics setting, well, we're gonna have to do all of these kind of individually. Let's start with the neck pedals. So we'll do the neck pedals first. Input preset. So when do we want her neck pedals to move? Is it when the head moves, when the body moves, or when your titties move? It's going to be when the body moves. I think when the body moves is a good time to move it. All right. And then again, we renamed a couple of the parameters, so we'll just do it manually. So we're going to add, no, sorry, not a preset. We're going to add on this one here. Let me give a quick breakdown. So the physics looks really, really weird, but it's not actually that bad. So this first bit here, this is just which data that it's going to use to activate the physics. So whatever you put here, if that moves, then the physics will activate. So like, for example, on my model, I have right here, if I move my head, my bells will move. Notice how I'm moving my mouth and all that, and then they're stationary. They'll only move if I move my head. And that is how I have it set. So whatever input you put here is how it'll move. So if we want our neck pedals to move whenever we move our body, then we gotta grab the ones that we used our body for, which was for us face position X and Y. Again, you can rename everything. You can leave it as the default. It's whatever you want. Just remember what each thing is. So for that, we have those set to there. Next, we want, okay, position X and angle. So those are both completely fine. Whoop. Can I increase this, please? Just to make it easier to see. All right. Now for effectiveness, this is how much you want each one to do. So say if I wanted my head to move my bells, but I did want them to move a little bit when my mouth moved, I would just put my mouth in here and put its effectiveness at 10. This is a percentage. So this is saying, okay, so they will move 50% based on your X position and 50% based on your Y position. Right? That's all this means. Where did I put? There it is, face position Y. So I'm just going to give them a straight 50-50 split. I want them to completely move, whether you're moving up or whether you're moving left to right. And I think that's how I want them to move, and that'll be fine. So that's my input. That's what they look like. Output. This is the thing that's actually moving. So what we would do here, we'll hit add. It wants us to do a pendulum first. Okay, we'll do the pendulum first. So these are the things that we're going to input in, and then we are going to create new down here. You don't need to worry about this one. This is all presets. You can try to use them, but I just kind of make my own. I don't really care about these. So you just add a new one. All right, that's simple. So there's just one setting on this. So this pendulum just means that, so whatever this input is, it'll drag this behind it, and this is the output. So input here moves however much, and then this drags like it would like a real life pendulum. So then whatever value this ends up being while it's getting dragged by your input, that's what your output is. So if this moves really sharply to the side, where you're just like, whoa, then suddenly it just dragged it along at the same speed, right? But it will lag behind, and that's what creates that little sympathetic motion. So for each of the pedals, we're going to have two pendulum settings. So the ones underneath can receive less movement, and then the ones in the middle can receive more. And again, this is just how you would set it up. So this has two pendulums on it. You have your input, and you have one output and another output. Now, the way pendulums work is it's going to lessen each time. This is going to drag it, but it's dragging it, right? It doesn't actually pull it the whole way, all the way straight down necessarily. So if we go back to our output now, we'll add an output, which was, we'll do T1 And we'll just do all of the top ones first. Okay. So then we notice, okay, well, those are all in there. Is this good enough? Well, let's take a look. So if we go face position X, oh, something janky happened. Hold on. Did that mess up somewhere along the lines when I was doing something? Hold on. Sorry, I'll close the physics real quick. Did I mess this up somewhere? Ah, what happened here? Ah. Now remember how I moved the model over and all of that? That has messed up the rest of these frames. So, that is a big thing that I just fucked everything up with because I moved her over. Now here's the question. Is there a good way to fix it? Edit. Let's see. Because the way to fix it might just be to have to go back and redo all the tail stuff. Unless I can figure out a way to fix it. Because it recorded the exact positioning, not relative positioning, right? Technically, all of our left and rights are going to be awkward. They're all going to be slightly off. Because we adjusted everything as it was like that. See, the tail has the same issue. Because we set the keyframes while they were like that. Everything else is going to be relative, but because these are actually on these same keyframes, so the way to have gotten around that would actually to have been to create a brand new one over the top. And then move that, and then everything would move with it. So I very stupidly made a mistake. And now I've created a lot more work for myself. This is why the planning stuff really, really matters, and it ends up working very, very importantly. See, because you notice everything else is still actually going to work relative and perfectly well. But because these actually have keyframes, and I effectively just moved all of their middle keyframes. So let's see if I can just recenter where everything is. Control-Shift-C. Control-Shift-V. Okay. So I did it for that. Why didn't the pop move? Okay, so the tail is still messed up. Let's see. So why didn't the pot move back as well? Oh, it's because the pot doesn't move on that particular one. Okay, let me reset everything to here. Okay. So that's all of that. So if we hit Control-Shift, so something that doesn't affect the position. So yeah, so the pot doesn't move on this position. So we hit Control-Shift-C. Yeah, Control-Shift-C. Move everything back to normal, Control-Shift-V. Everything should be back except the pot. So I can select just the pot. So where's the pot moving? So the pot was not keyframed, which is why it looks like this now. So we're just going to simply move it back to roughly there. Again, this shouldn't be an issue that you have as long as you're doing everything safely and normally. Just don't make any dumb mistakes like I did. See, like for example, for this, instead of moving everything, what you would probably do is either put it all in a brand new one that has no keyframes anywhere and then move it, Or you would just increase your canvas size instead of moving it over, right? And that's all you would do. Okay, so tail. So tail base, which was this one here. Okay, so select. Yeah, so at center, Control-Shift-C, Control-Shift-V, 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 Control-Shift-V. So now I'm pretty sure, yeah, so I undid all of that, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. I will just redo it. I will simply get it redone. All right, that should be good. Okay, so then now I'm going to do it for real this time. So this is what you should properly do. Make a brand new deformer. You're going to put all of these inside. Whole thing. And then now I should be able to move this and everything else will remain the same. All right, so there you go. There's how that issue and how you can fix it. Now, where were we? We were doing the physics settings. So we are back. I don't think we saved anything, did we? Yeah, I don't think we saved. We just closed it out because, well, we had a problem, but everything's back to normal now. So we're just gonna go back to that. And this is going to be neck pedals. We're going to add what it comes in. It's going to move when we move our, excuse me, our head position. Add an effectiveness of 50-50. Whether you move it up or down, I want it to move the same amount. Now this could be cute, so maybe instead of moving up and down, it moves the same amount. We could be, oh, well, we want it to move maybe more when you move side to side than when you move up and down. And then we would just change the efficacy. And you know, that's cute and fine and all, and then we'll just add our two pendulum settings back, and then we'll go back to where we were. So now we select our, first we'll select all of our top pedals. Okay. Now we ask, okay, well, does this look good? So, is this amount of movement what we're looking for? Yeah, I think that works pretty okay. But you may notice, wait, they're not all moving at the same speed. Well, that's because this here, the pendulum number. So notice how the T1, which is this one here, is referencing this top pendulum. And the rest of them are all on 2, which is this bottom pendulum. Well, we could just have them all reference 2 or all reference 1. So what if we have them all referencing 2? How does that look? Well, let's move her around. That looks completely reasonable. I actually don't mind that too much. So we'll have them all reference 2 here. You can also change this by, again, there's some effectiveness. And there's also scale. So you can, if I were to put this one's scale up to, say, 10, well, you're going to notice, oh, look how much that one moves. The more you want something to move, the higher you want the scale. Because that's just going to take whatever this number is and multiply it. So if you want that exact number, then it'll be fine to just be at 1. Or if you want to multiply it where, oh, a little bit of force makes something move a lot, you're going to increase the scale. All right, but that actually looks totally fine. What if we move them all to 1? How's that going to look? Well, oh, I forgot I have some of those not visible right now. Can I change visibility in here? Whatever. But okay. So we have our physics in here. And we've got all of the pedals moving like this. Which looks totally fine, and I'm okay with that. So now, well, hey, same thing. We're doing the rest of them. So we have the bottom pedals. Okay. Well, let's have all the bottom pedals on 2. Does that look okay? So they all move at different rates. And see, that's actually, the bottom pedals are still moving quite a bit. So now we ask ourselves, okay, well, let's zoom out. How does it look? Honestly, it looks pretty nice. I think I'm totally okay with that. And then that is our neck pedals physics. And that's all it really takes. Is you're just selecting your input and like what movements are going to make something move, and then what is moving, and then the pendulum just tells you the math. The pendulum just tells you the math of how much something moves. So now we can make another one. First, nah, we don't need to do any first. We can just go next. So what's the next physics thing we should do? Maybe some hair? All right, let's do the we'll just title it hair. And we'll do, so the input preset, we'll just do head. Oh, that's right. Well, we renamed everything anyway. We'll manually add them. So the preset's only useful if you left all the names of everything the same. So, okay, well, we're going to want all of the hair to move anytime we move our head at all. Right? So whether it's up, it's down, it's, turning to the left or to the right, or if it's tilting our head, or if it's moving our head, we want the hair to bounce and move. So we're going to say, okay. And then we're just going to give them all equal effectiveness. So we have 5, so that is 20% each. Now we can absolutely skew this in one way or another. Did I do my math wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know why it's letting me go even further beyond. Oh, yeah, so it's percentage. Again, so it's percentage based on its position or its angle. So we can have 50% angle, and there's technically another 50% of angle that's available wherever the hell. But we don't necessarily need that. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to create some pendulum. We'll start with 2 and see where that takes us and how we want it to look. Go to our output. We will add. So what needs to move? Well, we got a couple of things. All of them can probably move some. We have the left and right hair danglies. We got the left and right bun, and we have the bangs. That's all hair stuff, right? Okay, so let's put this in. Oh, so those buns are very bouncy. And then Notice, so the bangs actually aren't that bouncy here. So something we can do, again, we're changing the effectiveness. We can also target. So we can say, oh, well, the buns, maybe they'll move more when you move your head up and down. Okay, well then, so up and down, if I recall correctly, was RY. So we'll change the effectiveness of the Y to be a bit more. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to mention, so duration shaking. Yeah, so you can also modify the exacts of the pendulum to see how much it drags, how far it'll fling, if you want it to go very, very far. It's all just, again, the pendulum is the actual math that's happening. So you can absolutely adjust that if you want. But, let's see. So the easiest thing to do, actually, let me turn on her. Because right now she's not tracking the cursor at all. I want to turn that on so I can make her look at things. Collision detection. We don't want her to automatically blink. Set a random pose. Ignore the physics. Otherwise, that's good. What's the button? Oh, okay. Random pose. So now she's just going to kind of move around a bit. Just moving all of the values repeatedly. God, that is some cursed looking shit. But okay. Not seeing too much in the way of the physics moving. Let's put everything back to normal. And see what we want to do here. So we'll put everything onto... So we'll add another pendulum. So what if... Angle. Yeah, So that's actually interesting. So the X, or no, was it the Y? One of these, okay, yeah, so it's just tilting it, so it's just changing some of the scale. But it looks okay. Again, the easiest way to make her move is to actually slam it to one side. Because the physics is kind of weak in this showing, and you can increase the physics settings in your actual VTuber program. So the easiest way in here is to just slam. 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 Okay, well, they seem to be bouncing pretty well. Up. Up and down slams. Well, they don't really seem to be moving at all when I do this one. I'll face angle Y. We'll up that as well. Nothing seems to be moving too much. Let's go ahead and change the buns to 3. The hair danglies to 3. And the bangs to 2. And see what that does. Well, it's not really doing too much. So the face angle Z seems to be going okay. Let me change it to angle, angle. Yes, yes. So we'll actually go 30, 40, like this, and see how that looks. Again, a lot of this is just going to be playing with it. See how you want it to look. Well, they're barely moving at all. They're only moving a little bit, so I'm actually going to up the scale on the math on this. So we're going to go, for the bangs, we're going to go up to 10 times. Actually, well, let's start with 5 times. Well, actually, you know what I should do? We'll go back to 1.0, and then we will do, let's see, reset magnification. Yeah, okay, so that resets it all to there. And then reset the maximum. Is that going to help at all? No. All right. So a little bit of bounce. Almost no bounce on that. And again, you should be able to see. So let's just have her move around again. So a lot of it's just not moving. Now I gotta troubleshoot. So we're just gonna increase output. Again, we're gonna scale to 5. Scale to 5. Scale to 5. And this can kind of happen if you do a bunch of stuff at once. Because you see, notice how I've got like 5 inputs that are all like pretty low effectiveness. That's when you start to increase the scale, where each little movement matters a lot more. So you see, now they're kind of moving a lot. So now everything is moving. All right, a lot of bouncing, a lot of bouncing. The hair danglies, I think, we're going to need to up a lot more. Oh, and I think I know what it was for those. So I used different values, because I think I used either 1 or -1 instead of 30 and -30. So we're going to compensate for that by upping this to maybe, well, let's just say 30 and see what that looks like. Okay. God, the buns are going insane. This might be a little bit too much on here. Let me put these guys back to 2 with same with that one. So the hair danglies are still going to be insane. But we'll move the buns down to maybe 3 so that they're a little bit more in line. There you go, that's a good amount of motion. And I think I actually still want these hair danglies to be even more. So we're going to go up to a massive amount. I'm going to go 60 times on these. That's not enough. 100 times. Perhaps we should have them on a separate one. So what if we put them on 1? So they're feeling a lot more of the, there it is, of the actual direct motion. And again, a lot of this is just going to be playing with the numbers until they feel right to you. Okay. I think that moves a reasonable amount. Okay. So next we're going to do the ear floof. So we're going to add ear floof. There's no presets for this because this is just something we're adding in. So here we have some parameters. Where do we have... So inputs. When do we want the ear floof to move? Well, whenever your head is moving. That's pretty much it. So whenever the head moves, we want the ear floof to move. And that's it. We'll skew a bit towards up and down movements, though. We'll add ear floofs. Okay. I'm looking at it. I actually definitely... Because I was looking at the wrong bit, so I made them actually way too bouncy on the hair. So we'll actually... Well, I mean, the hair floof is done, by the way. You can see, so it just kind of bounces a little bit. That is exactly what we wanted. So let's go back to the hair. And you see, so what it is I messed up the inputs on here. So let's set all these down to 0. And then go to position X, position X. So we'll go up to 25 on each of these. And then 100 on that angle. And then let's see what this does to our output. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Still nothing here. What if it's angle? We put it like that. Well, still not really doing much. Just kind of live troubleshooting here, seeing what we do and don't want to work like. Alright, well. We'll have the hair move when the head moves. Because it doesn't look like these want to work for the way I want them to. So we're just going to ignore them. So these two, goodbye. This one, perfectly fine. We'll move this up to 50-50. Which also means that now that we have this set like this, we don't need this much crazy movement. We might need to keep those ones really high. Probably not. So if we go down to, say, 50. They seem to move a reasonable amount. And then let's go to the buns. So if the buns are here, let's move them back down to 1. They do a lot of bouncy. Seems good. And then the bangs. Is this too much for the bangs now? Oh, 100% way too much. So we'll go back down to 1 on that as well. Alright, it looks like we're not actually using 3 for anything, so we can remove that from our pendulum, so it's not taking up computing power. We'll actually move the hair buns to 1. So I think I want all of these to move a lot more with the left and right than they do with the other one. Okay. So, left and right they move a ton. Up and down they move some. Okay. She's just doing random posing while we can see how they look. Okay. Reset to default. And then this one, they should also move a little bit. Yep, perfect. Okay, so the hair is back to good. Neck petals, all still fine. How are the neck pedals looking? Alright, neck pedals still move. That's what we were looking for. Okay. So all of it, please. And then... let's see, what else needs to move? Ah, right, the tail. The tail is going to need to move, so we're going to add a physics for the tail. Okay. Add a pendulum, add the input. So when do we want the tail to move? Probably anytime you'd like move your body, I would assume. So we'll say position Y is going to affect the tail one that we did. This is the little rotation. Whoop. Right, so if we move up and down, so you can see the tail rotates. Simple. Position Y. Oh, we don't want it to go too crazy. Yeah, so we'll do something like that. And then now we add a new input. So this one will probably be, so we'll do the left and right. So when you move left and right, what does your tail do? So we'll call this one angle and this one position. We'll add all the tail tips. So you may notice, well, the tail tip that we made is kind of just a pendulum itself, right? Well, we can absolutely do that. So we can do, 1, 2, 3. So we'll add 1, 2, 3 onto there, and then this one will be, so your tail tip 1 is the very, very tip, which is going to be 4, 3, 2. Okay. So it's a lot more waggly. Very waggly tail. And that should be totally fine. We can even probably decrease some amount of this. So if we wanted to decrease it a bit, let's go down to maybe 0.9 here. And on the very tip, we'll do another 0.9. And she can kind of wiggle a bit, and then there it looks. Look at that, it's a little waggy tail. Alright. Now for the boobas. So now we're going to add a new one. This one we have a preset. So let's actually just try the bust preset and see how it looks. Because I've never actually used it, I don't think. Parameter body angle X and Z. Yeah, so we'll have to manually add that, which is going to be our face positions. Okay. So this is going to be our Booba Physics and Booba Physics up down. We could technically separate them, but it doesn't really matter if they are. So what do we put? We put face position. All right, let's add to our pendulum. So up, down will probably be the smaller of the two. So that one actually being on 1 is fine. And then efficacy there. Oh, I put it on the wrong one. Where's my titties? Why ain't they moving? Oh. And then you're right. So these numbers again, they change the math. For example, how long the pendulum is this column. That's sort of what I'm checking. Well, now they're not receiving any, so I suppose I should upscale the output by 5. Let's see how that looks. So that's pretty restrictive. What if? So let me up this to 10 and 10. Oh, small magnification. Input settings. Yeah, let's go with a bit higher. So let's go with 0.95. Reaction as 1. Oh, not 10. 1.0 back to the normal default, and then overall. So let's go back down to 1.0. Okay. Well, we gotta up that scale. Let's go up to 20. How would that look? I think I should reverse the up, down, and the bottom. So we'll move that to 2 and that to 1. Actually, so what I want to do, I actually think I want to separate these. So I'm actually going to delete, and we're going to separate them completely. All right, so select, delete. So this is going to be, so position, so whether you're moving left or right, is going to affect your Booba Physics only left or right. All right, so that makes sense, right? Let's move this up to, I don't know, 30, so it's around 126. Does that look reasonably bouncy? Yeah, that looks fine. And then we're actually going to do another one, so we're going to add Booba UD for Booba up, down. And we're going to add, so this is the up and down portion, effectiveness 100. Add a pendulum. Add Booba Physics up, down, effectiveness 100. Oh, scale. Okay, what's the output? Output needs to be way higher. I think we were around 30 on the other one. That might be a little bit too much. So we'll scale it back to 20. That looks pretty reasonable. Looks about right, physically speaking. Alright, so then that's that one. Then we'll go back to Booba. Move that effectiveness up. Move to the output. That's way too much. Scale it back, maybe 20. 20 good again. Okay. That should be good. Alright, so we've kind of reached one of those points where we can theoretically export this and start testing stuff out. So what I'm going to do, export physics settings. Do you want to calculate everything? Yes. So I'm actually going to export this as its own thing for just to keep it, just in case I accidentally lose everything. Okay, so all the physics are here. So even if all of this, vanishes or some nonsense, then it can stay here. So initiate physics model. I just want to double check that this is the right. Initiate, calculate. Initiate physics model preset. Recording settings. Okay, well, I exported the physics settings, so we're going to initialize. I hope that's the right one. I might be misremembering, and I might have screwed myself. But okay. So we close it down. We double check. Okay, everything's still here. That should be good. So now save. Let's go ahead and export for runtime, which is to say, as a Mach 3. We can also actually... so I think this is the same. Yeah, so you can export your physics settings separately. But we are going to export for runtime as a Mach 3. So we're going to keep our physics settings with it, including that. User data file, yep. Display information, okay. Center of the model, same. So most everything should be the same. Export target 1:1, that's what we want. SDK, okay. Everything should be good. We will save it. I'll put it in this model folder. We'll hit save. All right, so we now have it all nice and in our folder here. Now what we can do, all right, are you ready? Oh, it's me, it's VTube Studio, hello. We are going to show what it's going to look like when you bring this in. So one of the first things you're going to notice, you have this little sidebar. All right, and then you're going to go, so you have these little controls, you got your models. You can import your own model. So you'll create a folder with that. So like I made that model folder. I'm going to copy and paste that into this path here. Find this path wherever you have it. So you can hit open folder and it'll open it for you, which also makes it easier. So like I'll just make a new folder. I'll name it Sunfox. Then I will take everything that's in this folder, copy, paste it into here. I'm obviously not showing you my file window for security reasons. I mean, that should be obvious. But again, I'm just copy pasting it into this folders. And then now it's in there. Okay. I don't think it'll show up until I reboot. Yeah, so I'll have to reboot. You will see me vanish. I'm gone. Where'd I go? I have left forever. Let's relaunch VTube Studio. All right, it's relaunching. Hey, there's me. All right, well, let's look. Well, Sunfox. Hey, that's the one we were working on. Do you want to run auto setup or copy setup from another model? Now, this is something you'll want to go through yourself and personalize. So I'm just going to copy the setup that I have in my own, just because I've already gone through and manually set all of that up. All right. So we'll copy all of this. Yeah, we'll copy that over. All right, so and then let us go over to our VBridger. So this is VBridger. This is what I use for my mouth tracking. And then we'll just sort of connect and send it through. I can do something else on that later if we really need it. So now let's connect it to VTube Studio and start taking my stuff. Now, it did say that we were missing some parts. So now we get to go into this lovely menu, go to the model settings, and we get to do it all manually. All right. So the thing you have to manually do is just go connect everything directly. So you see how this here, if I can, there it is. This is inputting from face position Y. But when I renamed it to face position Y, I put spaces. And that just goes to show you how particular VTube Studio can be. So if I just select that, would you look at that? I'm starting to move. We're receiving motion, face angle X. Oh. We're receiving motion. Face angle Y. And then you'll just sort of go through each individual setting and set it to be whatever you want it to be. So we'll go mouth smile, which is mouth form. Mouth open is, you guessed it, mouth open. Brow right Y is, well, that's the right brow Y. Just got to go through. This is just like one of those first time setup things. Once you've got it done, it'll be like that for pretty much forever. So what was this one? This was the other eyebrow. Oh, I think I reversed my eyebrows. Yep. But that'll still be a-okay. Where? Eyebrow? Oh, okay. Left eyebrow for left. And then right eyebrow for right. So you see how every single setting I put adds one more thing that my model is doing and moving. So, and one other thing to note, I generally try to ignore most of the smoothing. I turn it down almost every time. It just usually doesn't always look right. So that's going to be I right X. That's going to be iris X. Okay. And then that's going to be iris Y. Again, it's just super important that you make sure you know what you named everything. And then it should be good to go. And you can also manually adjust all of your inputs and everything. So, for example, so this is my eye, right? So this is where I move my iris. So you can see, oh, I'm looking fairly straight on right now. Well, if I look up, you can see that it's spiked. So you can set it to be, so you want these settings here to be roughly whatever your limits are as a human face. And then, you know, you can set these to sort of match what your actual parameters in there were. So if it was 1 and -1, then you want them to match that. If it was 30 and -30, then you want it to match that. It's that simple. And then jaw open. Jaw open. Now you can see I don't have teeth everywhere. Lip press open. Well, that is lip press open. Okay, that one's still there. Mouth shrug. Mouth shrug. Pucker. And you kind of just go through until everything is set up and good to go. So mouth X. Oh, not that one. Oh. Mouth X seems to be working just fine. The inner eyebrow. So this is the ability to look sad. All right. The eye opens. This is right eye open. And then left eye open. So now this is one that I also really enjoy not having the smoothing on. If there's one that you want to absolutely make sure you adjust, it's going to be that. So right now, so my eyes are about naturally open right here. And remember, we have our extra little bit here so we can like super widen our eyes. But if I'm just naturally open and I'm sitting around maybe a 0.4, I'm actually just going to lower this to maybe 0.8. And you'll want to do it with both eyes, of course, so that your eyes can match. And then so that means I'm sitting at like generally around here. And then when I widen my eyes widen. So again, you just want to modify it and then should be able to close each eye individually. And that should look just fine. Left eye squint. right eye squint. So the eye squints. Still there. And you may notice, oh, well, all of our physics, it doesn't seem that bouncy. Well, that's what we're going to have to adjust. Are we missing anything? What is face position? Okay, so we've got a couple more that we got to do somewhere. Head position. Yep, that's the one I like to do. There we go. So physics strength. This is sort of what you would want to do, so I can like maximize it. And now everything moves a lot, right? So if you see, now suddenly I'm moving, I'm grooving. Oh yeah, oh what? And then like we can move around, and it tracks really well, and everything's moving. Everything's very bouncy. We can move up and down, and then get our bounces accordingly. Perfect. Okay. And then the wind strength. So this is basically ambient. If you don't move at all, do you want your physics to move? If we turn it off, notice how we stopped moving entirely. Whereas if we have a little bit of it on, then just a little bit of physics. If we have it on a lot, then our physics is going to move even when we don't. I generally like to say leave it like a little bit, not too much. Dragging physics. I think that I don't really mess with that. I just kind of leave that. Legacy physics. I don't know what the legacy physics is. Effectiveness, I see. Well, it should be fine either way. So you can see it's all seeming to be working down here. And I can zoom in and you can see me. Wow, look at me. I'm talking and I can track this. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot. Remember, I set the tongue on this model, but I didn't have it on my own. So we're going to add a new parameter. Going to name it tongue out. What is the input? The input is tongue out. So we select that. Select tongue out. And suddenly, I can stick my tongue out. So that's pretty cool. Probably turn off smoothing. You can probably have like a little bit of it on. It seems like one that doesn't really matter too much. And then there it is. So let's see here. What other parameters are still here? So there's face position Z, which I didn't do anything with. Eye smile. I thought I bound that, but I might not need it. Mouth funnel. That's an important one. Where's mouth funnel? Mouth X, pucker, shrug pout. Press open. There's mouth funnel. That's an important one to be missing. There we are. Oh, And then we have really, really good mouth tracking thanks to VBridger. And I can do this. I'm not sure about that. And so that's how this works. Teeth. That's right, we got teeth. And we can also go in and modify things pretty easily if we wanted. But that is the super basic. We have imported this in now. The only thing I think that's probably left is probably like the toggles, aka expressions, right? So we made this model so that it has a tummy mouth, but you notice how it's not on. And if you remember, we put it, we animated it so that it... All right, let's go ahead and get back in here. All right, looks like we're back. Sorry about that. OBS crashed, of all things. Everything else is fine. OBS just decided to give up. But if we take... So we're going to go to the expression editor. And we say, okay, let's create a new expression. So this expression is going to be called tummy mouth. And then we're going to go all the way down. So tummy mouth open. And we're going to set it to 1. Okay. What? Would you look at that? Now our tummy mouth talks and opens the same we do. Oh, that's crazy. And so now that can talk like that. So ain't that pretty neat? And then you can also set it so you would just set it up as a hotkey. So we'd say, okay, well, this hotkey is going to be tummy mouth toggle. All right, well, the hotkey action is going to be set or unset expression because it's a toggle. And the expression is going to be tummy mouth. And then we're going to say, oh, it's going to be control. Oh. So it's going to be control minus. And then, okay, so we're talking, and we hit control minus. Oh, and now our tummy mouth can also talk with us. And then, so that's a hotkey for your expression. And now notice how it closed. Oh, now it's back open again. Oh, and then now it's closed. So you just, whenever you press the button, it'll toggle it on or it'll toggle it off. Pretty simple stuff. And that's how you would do any of the expressions that you've made or any of the toggles that you've done. And with that, I think there's pretty much nothing left to go over. This is a completed model, completely ready and good to go. But I also don't really know what to do with it. Because this is not probably something I'm going to use myself. Very tail waggy, though. It's actually quite nice. I do like the way that the tail moves. I'm very proud of that. But either way, with that, let me go ahead and move this back out of the way. And that is all you got to do to get yourself a VTuber model. Now let me return to myself. I return. Hello again. Welcome back. It's me. Excuse me. And that's it. There you go. Oh, let me turn this down. I had to use this to forcibly make OBS stop. And there you have it. I'm not sure if there's anything left to really talk about. Does the model I made have a tail? No, my model doesn't have a tail. But tails are really, really good, especially for like the sympathetic motion stuff. I would highly recommend giving your character a tail. Really, whatever they are, find an excuse to give them a tail, right? It adds a lot. It adds a lot. All right, so with that, that is the conclusion of this series where we have made this Sunflower Fox VTuber model from start to finish. Thank you so much for everybody who has watched through all of this and really kept up. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this model. I guess she's up for sale. If you look at her and you say, "Oh, that's me. I want to move like that. That's what I want. I'm that. She's me." Then let me know and we can work something out. Otherwise, that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for watching and make sure to have a wonderful day. Goodbye. It's not Monster Hunter World.